The annual Bennett family dinner was always an extravagant display of wealth and veiled competition, but this year felt different. I sat quietly at the far end of the Rosewood Manor's grand dining hall in Charleston, South Carolina, listening to my siblings brag like contestants in a silent war of status. $25 million for the Napa estate is my final offer, my older sister Victoria declared, adjusting her diamond-studded Van Cleef bracelet. I mean, the vineyard alone is priceless, she added smugly. Speaking of investments, my brother Lucas said, swirling a glass of $1,200 0 cents Cabernet, my firm just closed on a new luxury high-rise in Miami. That's another $70 million added to the portfolio. Mother, elegant in emerald silk, beamed at them from the head of the table, her emerald-cut diamond flashing under the chandeliers. Father barely glanced up from his phone, probably checking futures markets even during dinner. And then there was me. Isabella Bennett, the youngest at 31, wearing a tailored navy dress that was a season old. No glittering jewels, just my grandmother's pearl necklace resting against my collarbone. The family disappointment. The one who had walked away from Bennett Capital 6 years ago to start over. Isabella, darling, Victoria's voice dripped with mock concern. That dress, did you pick it up at a department store? Leave her alone, Vic, Lucas smirked. Not everyone can afford couture. Some people choose independence. The way he said independence made it sound like a disease. How's your little, what do you call it, Mother asked, frowning. Your financial thing? Investment advisory, I corrected quietly, lifting my glass of water. It's going well. Of course it is, Victoria chuckled behind her manicured hand. That's why you're still in that tiny townhouse in Savannah. The waiter approached, his expression polished but tense. Would anyone like to see the dessert menu? We'll take one of everything, Lucas declared, and another bottle of Chateau Margaux 1983. He looked at me pointedly. Don't worry about the bill, Izzy. We know things are tight. Yes, Victoria purred, eyes gleaming. She can't even cover dinner. Poor thing. The waiter shifted uncomfortably, sensing the venom behind their smiles. I slipped my hand into my simple leather clutch and pulled out my black card. Actually, I said softly, placing the card on the tray. I'll take care of the bill. Victoria laughed. Izzy, be serious. I looked at the waiter. Charge it to the owner's account, please. His brows shot up in recognition. Of course, Miss Bennett, right away. Silence crashed over the table like a tidal wave. Because 6 months ago, while they were busy flaunting designer labels, I bought Rosewood Manor. Every gilded wall, every chandelier, every crystal glass they were drinking from. Tonight wasn't just a family dinner. It was my quiet revenge. Victoria's fork clattered against her porcelain plate. Owner's account? What is he talking about? I placed my sleek black metal card on the table, letting its weight and shine speak for me. Then, calmly, I pulled out my phone and slid it toward her. The glowing headline nearly burned through the tension in the air. Bennett Capital's quiet outcast acquires Southern Lux Group in landmark deal. I wasn't planning to bring this up tonight, I said, my voice smooth. But since money became the topic, the article was embargoed until morning, but I wanted them to see it first. It just closed on Southern Lux Group, every one of their 52 luxury hotels and fine dining restaurants across the Southeast. The silence was suffocating. Even Father looked up from his phone, his jaw tight. That's, Lucas stammered, his wineglass shaking. That's impossible. Southern Lux is worth $3,100 million, 0 cents, I finished for him, tilting my head slightly. The deal finalized this afternoon. Mother froze, her glass of Cabernet hovering mid-air. But how? Remember that little financial thing you've been mocking for years? I smiled, just a hint. Turns out quiet success is still success. While you were buying vineyards and bidding on art, I was building something bigger. Victoria's manicured fingers trembled as she snatched up my phone, smudging the screen while she read the headline out loud. Southern Lux Group acquired by Low Country Equity Partners. Isabella Bennett emerges as new power in luxury hospitality. Low Country Equity? Father's voice cut like a blade. That's the firm snapping up European luxury brands. Among other things, I replied, taking a measured sip of water. We prefer to stay quiet. Less noise means better deals. Lucas was frantically tapping his phone. This can't be. Lowcountry's portfolio is $14,800,000,000 0 cents as of this morning, I said, almost bored, though after tomorrow's announcement it'll push closer to 20. Mother's face had gone pale. But you've been showing up in old dresses, driving that car. A Tesla Model S isn't cheap, Mother, I said softly. It's just understated, like success should be. The waiter returned with a leather bill folder and bowed slightly. Your card, Ms. Bennett. Also, Chef Edward Chang sends his regards. He asks if you'll be inspecting the kitchens tonight. Not tonight, Pierre, I said gently. Tell Edward I'll review renovation plans with him tomorrow. Edward Chang? Victoria's voice pitched high, almost shrill. The Michelin-starred chef? He works for you? All 52 executive chefs report to me now, I said simply, folding my napkin, along with about 18,000 employees across the group. Father was still staring at his phone, scrolling through financial headlines like he could undo reality. His lips moved soundlessly before he whispered, Low Country Equity. You're the ones who acquired that tech conglomerate last month. Yes, I said, standing slowly. And next month? It might be something even bigger. If you want to know what happened when they followed me into the private lounge and the secret I revealed next, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. And the luxury resort chain in the Caribbean, I added lightly. Oh, and the private aviation service, plus a few other acquisitions we haven't announced yet. Lucas set his phone down so hard the crystal glasses rattled. Why didn't you tell us all these years? Tell you what, I asked, my tone calm and even. That while we were bragging about $100 million deals, you were closing billion-dollar ones? That your little financial thing was actually one of the fastest-growing equity firms in the country? His voice cracked. Victoria's face flushed crimson. But you live in Savannah, she said, as if this shattered the laws of nature. I own the townhouse, I said with a small shrug, and the building, along with several others in the historic district. I turned my gaze to Lucas, my smile razor sharp. Real estate is a smart investment, isn't it? He flinched, the way predators do when they realize the tables have turned. And those charity galas you mock me for skipping, I continued. I'm usually busy funding education programs and building hospitals in underserved communities. Real philanthropy, not photo ops for glossy magazines. Mother's jeweled hand trembled as she reached for her Bordeaux. Darling, if we had known, you'd have treated me differently, I finished for her. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I needed to see who you really were. All of you. I gestured to the opulent dining room around us. These restaurants, they're not just about indulgence, they're about creating something lasting, experiences, legacies. But you've all been so busy showing off wealth, you've forgotten what it's like to savor it. Pierre approached again, bowing slightly. Monsieur Bennett, Mr. Rothschild is holding on line 1 from Paris, regarding the European acquisitions. Tell him I'll return his call in an hour, I said, never breaking eye contact with my family. Speaking of Europe, Victoria, I let her name hang like smoke. That vineyard estate you overpaid for? It sits on land I'm developing into a luxury eco-resort. We'll be needing that property. Her wineglass slipped, crimson spilling across the white linen. You can't. Already have, I said softly. The eminent domain paperwork clears next week. Don't worry, you'll be compensated fairly. Around 30 million, I believe. Not 50, but you did overpay. The dessert cart rolled up in suffocating silence. Macarons, millefeuille, chocolate soufflé, luxuries no one seemed eager to touch. Father had loosened his tie, something I'd never seen in public. Mother kept staring at my phone, as if trying to reconcile two versions of me, the disappointment and the empire builder. Finally, Lucas spoke, his voice raw. Why keep up this charade? I smiled, folding my napkin with deliberate grace. Because true power doesn't need an audience. And because I wanted this moment, the look on your faces, to remind you what real independence looks like. Why let us believe you were struggling? Lucas finally asked, his voice brittle. I reached for a small chocolate souffle from the dessert cart, its aroma rich with dark cocoa and espresso. Because money reveals character, dear brother, I said softly, both in having it and in thinking others don't. That's not fair, Victoria protested weakly. No? I raised an eyebrow, setting my spoon down with deliberate grace. Let's review, shall we? In the last hour, you've mocked my clothes, my home, my career, and even questioned whether I could pay for dinner, all while parading your wealth as if it makes you superior. But no. My tone cut clean through her excuse. You were being cruel because you believed you could be. Because in your world, money equals worth. I took a slow bite of the souffle, savoring the molten center. Exquisite. Pierre, please remind me to give the pastry team a raise. Pierre, still standing discreetly nearby, allowed himself the smallest smile. The thing about old money, I continued, is that it breeds lazy thinking. You assume that because I walked away from Bennett Capital, I walked away from success. It never occurred to you that I was walking towards something bigger. Father cleared his throat, his voice rough. Low country equities strategy, the quiet acquisitions, the luxury brand consolidation. That's the opposite of everything I taught you. I nodded. Exactly. No flashy announcements, no empty boasting. Just disciplined, deliberate growth. My phone buzzed softly against the linen tablecloth. I glanced at the screen, then smiled. Excuse me a moment. A quick swipe, a typed confirmation, perfect timing. The London acquisition just closed, I said. Mother's voice was barely a whisper. London? Emmeline Group, I confirmed, setting the phone down. A charming little hotel collection. You might know it. You've stayed there often during your shopping trips. Victoria's face went ghostly, then green. The Royalton collection? But that's the most exclusive hospitality brand in Europe? I finished for her. Yes, we'll be renovating the penthouse suite you adore so much. Don't worry. I'll make sure you get a nice room when you visit. Family discount, of course. Lucas was still grappling for footing. But all those family dinners, sitting there while we bragged. Enlightening, I said smoothly. Nothing exposes who people truly are like letting them think they're better than you. Mother dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed napkin. Darling, we've been horrible. Yes, I said evenly. You have. Victoria swallowed hard. Then why tell us now? I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands as the candlelight danced on the silverware. Because tonight isn't just dinner. It's the moment you understand. Real power doesn't need an audience. But it never hurts to have one. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch as candlelight flickered over their stunned faces. Because tomorrow morning, I said evenly, Low Country Equity goes public. We're projected to be the largest IPO of the year. The words hung in the air like smoke. And since I own 82% of the company, I added, letting that figure settle into their consciousness, you can do the math. Father did first, his face drained of color, his lips moving silently as the number formed in his mind. That would make you the wealthiest Bennett by far, I confirmed softly. But that's not the point. What matters is that starting now, some things are going to change, particularly in this family. Victoria's voice came out small, shaky. What do you mean? For instance, I said, my tone smooth as velvet. Those weekly family dinners where you all parade your latest purchases like contestants in a social Olympics, they're being replaced by monthly board meetings where we'll discuss charitable initiatives. Attendance is mandatory if you want to maintain your trust funds. Lucas's chair scraped against the marble floor as he jerked forward. You can't do that. Those trusts are ironclad. They were, I said lightly, until I bought the bank that manages them. The silence that followed was almost delicious. I allowed myself a small smile. Amazing what you can accomplish with proper motivation and $14 billion. Mother's hand flew to her throat, her diamond choker trembling against her skin. Isabella, please. Relax, Mother, I said, my voice soft but firm. I'm not here to cut anyone off. That would make me as petty as you've all been to me. Victoria flushed crimson, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, but I pressed on. Instead, I'm going to teach you something you've all forgotten, what real wealth means. I gestured toward Pierre, who stepped forward carrying a sleek black leather portfolio embossed with my initials. He placed it on the table and opened it with reverence. Inside were documents neatly arranged in crisp folders. This, I said, tapping the top sheet, is the Isabella Bennett Foundation. Its mission? To provide education and healthcare to underserved communities worldwide. And here's the twist. I looked at each of them in turn. You'll all take active roles in its management. Active roles? Victoria echoed faintly, as if the phrase were foreign. Yes. No more signing checks for glossy magazine spreads or charity galas. You'll be doing actual work, meeting the people we help, learning the difference between having money and making a difference. Father studied me with something I hadn't seen in years. Respect. You planned this all along, didn't you? From the day you walked out of Bennett Capital. I allowed myself the faintest smile. I planned to succeed. Teaching you humility? That's just a bonus. My phone buzzed on the table, its vibrations soft yet commanding. I glanced at the screen. Tokyo, if you'll excuse me. I rose smoothly, adjusting my navy dress, unassuming yet powerful, just like the woman wearing it. Pierre, make sure my family gets anything they'd like for dessert. And please send a box of those chocolate soufflés to my office tomorrow. Of course, Miss Bennett, Pierre replied with a slight bow. I picked up my understated leather clutch, then paused at the head of the table. Oh, one more thing. Next month's board meeting? Leave the designer labels and diamonds at home. We'll be breaking ground on a new hospital in Guatemala. Dress appropriately. As I walked toward the towering glass doors, my heels striking the marble like punctuation marks, I heard Victoria whisper behind me. What just happened? I smiled to myself, a quiet fire burning in my chest. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's forcing them to become better than they ever thought they could be, even if you have to buy their souls to do it. When I walked away from the family firm 6 years ago, everyone thought I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Tonight, sitting in that dining room, watching their faces when the truth finally surfaced, I realized something important. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could build something meaningful without the validation I once craved. But here's the truth. I didn't get here overnight. I faced years of silence, judgment, and nights when doubt felt heavier than any billion-dollar decision. And now, as I take the next step, I want to hear from you. Tell me, was I too harsh tonight? Or did they deserve every second of it? How would you have handled it if you were in my shoes? Drop your advice in the comments, because this story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told they'd never make it. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about resilience and success? What advice would you give to someone chasing a dream that nobody else believes in? And if this story struck a chord, I'd love your support. Subscribe, share your thoughts, and let's build a space where strength and humility matter more than titles and flashy labels. Because real wealth isn't just about numbers, it's about impact, self-respect, and never letting anyone else define your worth. So tell me in the comments, what would you have done at that dinner table? And what's your mantra for staying strong when the world doubts you?